Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Greg, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Roderick. So great to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Greg, introduce yourself and the name of your business.
Yeah, I'm Greg Hastings. I am, as I call myself, head guide, creative director, and founder of Hastings Brand.
Awesome, awesome. Greg, we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. I started off, it goes back to high school. I was the guy that was always drawing on my notebook, drawing on the margins while I should have been taking, notes in class and all that. But along came MTV and just kind of made me start really appreciating a lot of, video, motion, the music. It was really an influence at an early age. I think a lot of people were into movies and music growing up that are in this profession. And what I found is as I got into college, I discovered graphic design. I started there. Thought I'd go out and conquer the world, and as most of us do, we realize we're a little greener than we thought we were. So you kind of start at the bottom of the pole. I started at an in-house marketing department designing catalogs. Realized quickly I needed to revamp the portfolio, cash in on a couple of years experience, and elevate myself. And that's exactly what I did. And I think that was the beginning of my branding journey, was to actually look at myself and the value I was bringing. So I did that, and I went from designing gift wrap catalogs to working on sales material and collateral for Maybelline, Varsity Spirit, and some brands like that. Started introducing myself to more branding through just various projects that came through the door, worked my way up quickly to associate creative director. Made the leap into a larger agency where they kind of brought me in to kind of revitalize the morale of the team, elevate the design, aesthetics, and things like that. We got that accomplished. And as the agency grew into being one of the largest agencies privately owned in the South, I worked my way up to vice president and creative director, and I managed several different teams, different sizes. The last run was me kind of cherry picking a team. We were able to work on a lot of agriculture work. I didn't really seek out agriculture, but it kind of found me and it clicked and had a great team around us. And that's when I really started refining the way we worked. And I'll get into this later, but it's really one of those where I started refining, creating more efficiencies, and I really learned what it was that resonated with the ultimate audience.
Okay.
COVID came along, we all know about that, and on the back end of that, the numbers were down and mine was up, as I like to say. So we parted ways. And I thought I would do a little freelancing for a bit and work my way into another creative director role. And I realized that, I really enjoyed it. I love the entrepreneurship of it. I love being able to, have full say in the matter of my business. And, it's still a young business. I've only been at it for coming up on 2 years now. And so I've still got some learning curve going on, but I'm really, it's off and running and I'm having a great time doing it. And I love to talk about connecting brands, revitalizing brands, and getting them into a better place to move forward. So anyway,
Okay.
here I am.
Ec- Excellent, excellent. Definitely appreciate you sharing that. Now, I want to take a step back. I'm talking about when you were writing and coloring and drawing in those margins. I see the typewriter up there. My question was, in high school, were you on the yearbook staff?
I was not actually. I went to a small high school. The yearbook staff was a really small group. I was a little more into sports at the time. The
Mm-hmm.
typewriter actually belonged to my grandfather when he was in college, and
Mm-hmm.
photography is a hobby, so I shot that just as a commemorative kind of thing. But no, I actually, I get asked that a lot. Actually, it's really kind of funny. But
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. I was creative. I was on the yearbook team or class, and I helped put together the yearbook. I thought it was awesome. I did it for 2 years actually, and my senior year, the producer or the teacher, she let me go wild with pictures. So my senior year, I am spread through that book so much as it's awesome.
you're well represented.
Yes, yes. Now, I just want to ask a couple questions when it comes to some of the previous things you did. You said that you were there with Maybelline. Was that one where you were working with the models? Were you doing a specific lipstick, blush. Tell
Uh,
us a little bit about that project.
Yeah, well, actually, maybe I misled you. I was actually working for a boutique here in Memphis. There was a branch of Maybelline here that focused more on the sales and marketing for the sales staff. So the
Mm-hmm.
boutique I was at was actually doing the work. We created a lot of sales collateral that the sales force would go out and target a
Okay.
lot of the regional outlets and things like that. Worked on some sweepstakes. The closest I ever got to Christy Turlington was holding a picture of her in my hand. So, that's my claim to fame on the Maybelline front. But it was a good ride. I met some really great people. They opened my eyes up that, just tasteful, creativity. And at the end, we're all, you hate to go there too much, but it sounds, it's the old advertising thing. We're all trying to sell something. So
Right.
at the end, it's like pairing up talent, pairing up creativity, pairing up, some tasteful design with salesmanship.
Yeah, yeah. So you said 2020 came around. We know that was a crazy time. You were in an organization and you were on a team,
Yes.
and your team was very successful. You said that you were going to try to build things up and possibly get another, creative position there. But you decided to do something different. Was there a specific event that happened that made you burn your ship and go all in on yourself instead of jumping into another team?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, COVID came along. The way I'd been working with the team, we had really put a lot of trial and error into action. So I really had a process down. We were getting really good results at it, but the agency as a whole was struggling to win some new business. And so when we parted ways, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to just apply to some jobs. And by now, at this point in my career, with, almost 30 years experience, I should be able to roll right into a new job. I think that was me being a little naive about how strong the market is and how much talent is out there, and maybe a little bit of denial.
Mm-hmm.
But after I think you hear this story a lot, where a lot of seasoned vets kind of go out and go, "Wow, I thought I'd kind of make the leap a little quicker and more, honestly, a little quicker than I did." Got a lot of good input. I got a lot of nibbles and things like that. But really, I've been fortunate. I had met several people through COVID, just making phone calls and just kind of staying connected through all of that. That freelance found me pretty quickly. I had some former clients call me like literally the week after I stepped out of the door of the old agency, and they were like, "Hey, come over here and help us." So the burn the ship, I think for me was literally kind of having that moment where I sat here and said, I've done this for about what would be equivalent of about a quarter, and I'm doing really well. And so I sat down and I said, this seems to be going to a point that I think I can do this. And so you kind of go gulp, let's do it. And and you say, all right, we're going to get serious about it. I told myself, if we're going to do this, I'm not going to be the guy with a laptop in the spare bedroom. I don't want to be that. I think I can bring more than that to the table with my experience and the process that I have. Man, it was one of those moments where I just kind of sat here by myself one day and just kind of looked at myself hard and looked at the business I was doing. And I just said, I believe I've got a foundation I can build from here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's always challenging at times to say, "Hey, look, I'm a bet on myself, and I'm gonna take that step off the curb." So we definitely appreciate you doing that, and we want you to share with us now all about your branding business. Tell us, who you're serving, what you're providing, who's that ideal client. Tell us all about it.
Yeah. So, these brand leaders, Roderick, that are the ones that you see, they're stressed out. They're the ones who, for me, they're working in kind of the refined, I call it rustic and refined lifestyle brands. These are the ones that think outdoor, think sport, think the home categories, but casual elegance, kind of a town and country vibe. In the South, there's a magazine called Garden and Gun Magazine. It's kind of a New South bourbon meets tweed and denim, I guess. It's that world. But those brand managers, you've seen them, the leaders of these brand, the stakeholders in the brand, they are the ones that you see that just feel like they're not living up to their potential. They feel stuck. They feel like, that they're just not getting the potential out of their brand. You know, the people I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where I come in. That's where I take 30 years of experience of working with brands, developing marketing around these brands, and even leading teams to do all that. I take all of that. I took all the back and forth. One of the things that was really getting me working in the big agency was this dance they do. I call it the corporate tango. It's this back and forth process that drags out, runs up, you have a pile of people around a table and it just won't stop to get to where you need to be. And after a while, I think this is where expertise kicks in. I think this is where just some good experience of having been there, done that, learning what works and doesn't work kick in. And I just kind of cut out all that back and forth and put a process together. It starts with what I call a brand roadmap. And so if one of these brand leaders wants to sit down, we will. And we will sit down and have a deep dive interview. If you work around me much, you'll hear me say, let's ask better questions. And I will start there. And again, this is where just after a couple of hours, I've got a really good intuition. I think, again, it comes back to experience. But I think bringing that to the table with these really good questions really starts to paint a picture of the potential of the brand, the situation you're in. And you'll hear me also say a lot, design with purpose. And that is something to me that I learned early on. And I'm not so much about decorative design and not really about a lot of design without really any reason for being. I call that decorating more than designing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you'll hear me say, I'm not going to try to sell you some cool. I will sell you a well-designed solution instead. And that's kind of what the brand roadmap is. You get me for a short burst, and I will sit down with you, and we will put together really quickly and efficiently and efficiently, a little brand roadmap. And if you want to go further, we will go more into, let's start getting into your differentiation, your positioning. Let's put together what I like to call a promise. And I
Mm-hmm.
like the word promise because it's human. A lot of people kind of say, well, we have a mission statement. And I'm like, that's fine. But let's take a look at it and let's let the differentiation and the positioning start shaping the promise. And I like promise because a promise is something we're all familiar with. A promise is human, and a promise is also something that we can measure. You either delivered on it or you didn't. And so once we get that promise in place, we can start actually talking about the value you bring to your customers. And I will take you through, I have a chart that I've put together, and we take you through that. And by then, we're halfway to a creative brief, and we can actually start looking at how the brand becomes visualized.
Okay.
So we have clarified, then we're going to visualize. And from there, it's just some efficient exploration. I utilize the web. I mean, why not? It's at our disposal. I tell a lot of young art directors, it's like, look, most of us design from recovering things in our head that we have been exposed to. But the world is much bigger than your brain. So let's utilize the web and let's find a lot of inspiration and let's find things that match up with all of that homework that we've been doing to deliver the promise. And we do that on a brand level and a product level, and we start creating a language around it. That language takes shape in the form of colors, graphics, anything else. And if we want to continue to work with us, we will take it more into what I call a brand elevation. And the elevation is when we actually put those assets and all of that positioning to work to start actually marketing and connecting with your audience. And by that point, if I've done my job well, it's a collaborative process along the way. So I should say, if we have done our job well, we should really be resonating with your audience. We have put things in place that take a lot of stress off of these brand leaders and actually leading the brand because now we have purpose in place. So now we have a measurement that allows us to say, yes, this is living up to everything we've already decided. That helps brand leaders who are managing internal teams because now we have a bar in place that they can go, It's not a bunch of opinions and subjectivity. The brand has been established. So now that takes a lot of stress off, and we can, as we say in the South, we can get on with it. And
Right.
so that's really it in a nutshell. And I kind of break these into packages so you can get involved with me as much as you want.
Hmm.
What I have found is once we get into it, the momentum starts building and it goes quickly and it's very intense. And so that's the other great part of it that people like is instead of dragging this back and forth out for 6 months, we've got the brand in place, assets in place, and your brand can get out and start working for you. And at the end of the day, we're back to making money. So.
Awesome, awesome. Now, what I would like to try to do for the audience that is watching today is continue to build that framework and paint a clear picture. If you can, share with us one of your successful engagements that you had where the person just was all out of sense, out of sorts, didn't know what was going on, but then you were able to have that great discovery with them and push them in the right direction. Share with us one of those success
Yeah,
stories.
so one that kind of comes to mind, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. One that comes to mind that we worked on. I say we because I work with a client on these, but I was working with a team for it was Paul Davis, and I was collaborating with another boutique at the time. They brought me in to help kind of take through the process. And the internal team was wanting to do a recruiting campaign. And so what they did was, look, the internal team's kind of, after a while, it's the forest for the trees conversation. So they brought me in, and we were able to kind of sit down. It was a crash course, like I said, that intense brand map, roadmap kind of approach. We went through the process to identify and get clear on what the objectives were, what it is that a win in the situation is. And from that, we were able to start, exploring the language we wanted to use for the recruitment. What kind of people are here? What's valuable to the people that you want involved with your organization and so forth. And from there, a language starts shaping. You have some back and forth, a lot of dialogue. I love dialogue, not monologue. And so what we end up going through is to actually we shaped a campaign that created more about, the human aspect of things. It was interesting, and I see this happen a lot. I mean, we're human beings living in this world and engaging with brands and so forth. So what ends up happening is you start tapping into that emotional side of the brand. I like to say every brand has an emotional side, every brand has a rational side. The emotional side will lure you in, the rational side supports it. And so, what it allowed us to do was to kind of say, hey, I make a difference. They already kind of refer to themselves as difference makers. So, we really kind of were able to zero in on that. It's a funneling process. So again, you kind of start with this roadmap of I hear where you're wanting to go. I see how we can get there. Let me clarify that. We gain clarity. We start defining the value and the proof and the language around that. Phrases and words typically come out of those conversations. Those craft kind of the verbal part of the brand. And then we start going, well, what can this look like?
Mhm.
And that's when I will explore something I call the territories game. So I'd be like, Roderick, do you want to live in a glass house or do you want to live in a log cabin or do you want to live in a Mediterranean, seaside villa? Those are big conversations that could save us a lot of money
Yes.
with a
Yes.
conversation instead of the old days when I would see the art directors go off and craft for 8 hours and build an ad and come back and go, ta-da, I hope you like it.
Hmm.
And if you
Yes.
don't, we're
Yes.
all
Yes. Yes.
screwed because now we're out of money, we're out of time, and I'm out of morale.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
we
Gotcha.
kind of go through this territories game where again I go back to the internet. I pull in a lot of visuals and a lot of just found imagery and kind of we have a conversation very quickly to where I can go, hey, I can put a lot of looks together quickly and go, where do we feel like everything we're talking about needs to go visually? The clients love this part of the process because they're starting to see this thing take shape. They're kind of going, well, Roderick, the yellow shirt looks great, but did you consider a blue one? Or what if we did this? Or tie or no tie. It's those kinds of conversations, and it involves the client. And what you're doing is, again, it's a dialogue. You're creating ownership to the process. They're involved with the decision making. And so that's why it's important that you have the key people involved in the process. And it takes away a lot of that subjectivity later because the decisions have been made and you see why they're being made. And that's really
Mm-hmm.
important. And once we get through that process, then it's a matter of us again funneling down, tidying all this up, starting to create more crafted pieces at that point. That's when the craftsmanship really kicks in.
Okay.
I hope
Yeah,
that answers your
I
question.
always ask that those types of questions because I want the people that are watching to understand through a real life experience. You know, with us, we're great with our internal industry jargon and
Hmm.
we know what's going on, but a lot of people that are watching or listening, they're novice to what it is that you do. So I definitely appreciate you painting that picture for us today. Now, in this next section, as we go forward, I want to lean on that 30 years of experience that you've had in the industry. I want to talk about the couple few years that you have been going out on your own. And I'm very confident that you have acquired and nurtured a bunch of best practices and or business skills that have helped you to become successful. And I was wondering if you could share some of those best practices or skills with the entrepreneurial audience that is watching today that they can possibly add towards their mix and help them to be successful.
Yeah, I think, the one of the things, if I had to offer any, here's some, if I had to offer what I see work the most, and I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, startups, I've worked with a lot of big businesses and small, I've worked with a little of all sizes. The consistency I see is just to get clarity on the front end. It really comes down to who are you, who needs to know, why do they care? And how are they going to find out? So if you can kind of just start with those four questions, and the way I start a lot of those roadmap conversations is I will come out, and it's really kind of a showstopper for a lot of people. This just happened with a outdoor lifestyle group I've just started working with, and the first question I ask is like, well, what are you known for, or what do you want to be known for if you're a startup? And it's interesting how little a lot of people put thought into that. And a great book that I read just before going out on my own, it was good timing. It's an older book, The E Myth by Michael Gerber. A lot of people recommend. I think it's like one of the most read entrepreneur books. But I'd recommend that one right away. But that was one that really kind of reminded me that when you're running your own business, you're wearing a lot of hats. And I've seen this happen. I've worked with some groups that have had this where it's like, okay, you guys were great. Everyone told you were great. So they go start their business, but they don't realize they're not great at sales. They realize
Mm-hmm.
they're not great at paying the taxes. And
Mm-hmm.
so, again, that's where I was like, okay, I've got to approach this thing as a business, not as a dude with a laptop in his spare bedroom.
Right. Right.
So I was like, okay, so I would say get very real about what it's going to take, talk to people who have done it. And I think the other thing is just get very clear on what it is that you're going to measure yourself against. What is a win in this situation? And I always like to
Mm-hmm.
say, begin with the end in mind. What's the end goal?
Right.
Where do you want to go from here? And is that a win? Is it a win for you to, uh, you know, show up, do your thing, and cash out and sell it and take it to the bank? Or is it your goal to build this up into a 20-person boutique? Or is this your goal is to, sit back and just count the money and let other people run your boutique? I don't know, or your bigger business. So
Yeah.
I think to just ask yourself some of that on the front end and then get really clear. Seth Godin has a good book. This is marketing, and he talks about really defining your niche. And that is another one that, to me, coming from advertising, I'm like, yes. The more you can define that, the more clear you can get about it, and the more you can be an answer to them, to that audience. I always say, what's their pain? Define and be an answer for them. And the more you can do that and get in a serving mindset over a selling mindset, I think you really can start differentiating yourself very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I always
Yes.
love to bring it back to being human beings, you know.
Yes, yes. Those are some excellent tips because, like you said, having the end in mind, but most importantly, having clarity in
Hmm.
what you're doing. Being concise in what you want, period. Because if you don't know, how are they going to know,
Right.
if you don't know? So I definitely appreciate you sharing that skill.
Yeah, that's been one of the bigger ones. Again, I think just learning to be an answer, to ask questions that uncover what someone's real problem is.
Hmm.
It's interesting to me. I've had marketing teams come into conference rooms, and you start asking, and it's really amazing how it really can stump them to ask them to just in one sentence tell me what you do
Yes,
and
yes.
tell me how you're good at it. And
Hmm.
it turns into I always say it's like that meeting turned into a sales sheet. It's like they just start running down the bulleted lists of a list of tactics that they deliver. And I'm like, that's not it. My question
Hmm.
is, hey, Roderick, it's a cold, wet, rainy Monday morning in the middle of winter. What gets you up and lights you up so much that you bounce out of bed on a Monday morning and go to work for somebody?
Hmm.
Or for
Hmm.
the sake of somebody. And,
Yes.
if you can get to that point to where you go, that's what lights me up, then that usually is something more than your tagline. That is something more than an ad or a sales sheet, a trade show booth, or a thing. That is the core of your soul of your business, is what I say. And if you can start getting into that space and talking about that space and using that fire inside to start connecting you to people that appreciate it and really they want some of that going
Hmm.
on with their brand. That's where I kind of start talking about, this is how we reignite your brand and get it moving again. This is how we reignite your team. This is how we reestablish purpose behind the reason you're here in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's very important for the entrepreneurs that are watching today to keep these things in mind because you're with a professional that's been doing it for many years now, and he works with brands, and that's very understandable to make sure that you have a clear message for everyone. Now, Greg, we definitely appreciate you sharing about your experience, your business, some of those things that you're doing, but we want people to understand that you're not just a brand master, but you are a human being over there.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, let's just say that your business is coming along fine, your teams are coming along fine, creating all the things, and time and money is not an issue. What is it that Greg would do with his time?
Oh man, I am truly a creative soul. I read a great book called The Artist's Way, and I cannot, a Julie Cameron or someone like that, I think's the name of it. I probably got that wrong. Great book for anyone that has a creative soul within them. She talked about taking the artist inside out to play. And I
Mm-hmm.
found it to be very true. A friend recommended it to me. It's an older book actually, but it was really great because it said that the artist inside is really like a child who just wants to go play. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't take it on a play date every once in a while, it gets cranky. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I have found that to be true. So what I have found, all the way back to high school, I always loved taking photos. I love photography. I still do. It actually has kind of become a part of me building out the assets for a brand. I've incorporated it into what I do. But not just for work. I will go. I like to just get outside, get away from the screens. I like to go out and shoot some shots. When I bring it into the work, I always like to say, I see your brands through my lens. The guy who created your brand, I can carry it one step further for you. But I like to kind of get away from that and, just go shoot some nature. There's a great park nearby that has horses. I'll go shoot those and, I don't know, man. It's a blessing and a curse. You kind of seek
Yeah.
everywhere you go and you just want to capture it. If I'm not doing that, I'm working in the yard and it's again just getting outside, breathing fresh air, getting away from the screens. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
married into a golfing family, so still working on my golf game, but I love to get outside and see what we can do there too.
Awesome, awesome. Now you talked a little bit about the typewriter up there. What's the second picture up below it?
Oh, that's that old movie theater here in Memphis where I live. I was one of that is one of my little outings.
Mm-hmm.
Driving down the street, I've driven by it a number of times. It's just kind of over on a, just kind of tucked away like a lot of those kind of buildings are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just an old theater that had been around for a long time. And I literally stopped in the middle of traffic while there was no cars coming and hung out the window and snapped the front of it. And I just love symmetry and things like that. So.
Yes.
I don't know. I've just always been a fan of movies and all of, when I shoot, I always say I'm connecting with character. And I
Mm-hmm.
love things that have character. I love things that have a story behind them. I love things that, when you look at them, you feel like, man, there's more to it than just a plastic facade.
Yes. Yes.
Same
Yes.
with the
Well,
typewriter, same with some paintings. I love texture and color and things like that. So
okay. Well, hey, that's that creative brain. We definitely understand that.
yeah.
Um,
I think that
now,
all ties
if
back to, like I said, I think that ties back to kind of that rustic and refined world that I love. I love the
Mhm.
rustic part of it kind of says
Mhm.
it's okay, it's okay
Yeah.
that it's not perfect.
Right, right, right. Like you said, character makes me think about Mater. I got some
Yeah.
little
Oh, there you
kids, so
go. Yeah,
yes, he doesn't want to mess with his dents. So
that's
that's what
right.
made me think about that when you said that.
Absolutely.
Now, if someone has questions about how to further their brand, maybe some questions on some of those best practices and the clarity facts that you had, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you if they have any questions?
Absolutely. I would love to have that conversation with someone. And you can go to hastingsbrand.com. And on there, you can schedule a 15-minute chat. It's free, it's complimentary. We can kind of see if we're a great fit for one another. And if we feel like, that we are meant to collaborate and to get things moving, and it feels like everyone's in tune with that. From there, we go into, we begin with the roadmap session, which is, like I said, it's only a few hours, so the price is right on that. And from there, if you want to take that path to potential, I call it,
Mm-hmm.
and take that back to your team, that's fine. I've had some do that. But usually what I find is people are pretty hyped up, and the conversations that we have lead us on into kind of this, what I like to call the brand foundation phase. And that's when we start getting into talking more differentiation and positioning. So first steps first, let's talk and see if we're a fit. Second step would be have a little brand roadmap session.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing. We truly do appreciate you doing that. And we know that sometimes it's not always easy to talk about yourself and share all those things. So we try to honor our guests by giving them the last word. So, Greg, please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
Yeah, with Greg, you always get a story. So I'll make it brief. But one of the turning points of my career, a real pivotal moment, it was back in my agency day. I was young. I was working with a team. We were working on a campaign. This is in the days we would litter the wall with concepts and we would talk about them. And one of the days, the magic wasn't there. We weren't hitting we just weren't getting it. Everyone was getting frustrated. And so I said, let's break, let's go to lunch. And I kind of hung around, and the patriarch of the agency came by. He was up in his 70s, and we got along really well. He was straight out of Mad Men.
Mm-hmm.
And he walks in and he said, what do we have here? And I said, man, it's frustrating. They're just not getting it. They're not hearing me. We're all not connecting on this and getting to something that's in a good place. And I could tell he didn't like it. He looks at it for a moment and he turns to me and he said, when you quit designing your portfolio and you start designing solutions, then you've arrived.
Okay.
And that stuck with me. That changed me. My work got simpler. The way I worked got simpler and more efficient. My work turned from being designed for design's sake into work that was an answer for someone.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed the way I hired people. It changed the way that we measured our own work, our own success. It changed the way we saw ourselves. And that's what I do for people now. And the best thing, so you get a two for one here, Roger. So on his
Mm-hmm.
way out of the conference room, he turns around and he said something else that stuck with him. And he said, Never mistake a talented amateur for a professional.
Okay. Okay.
And I thought, boy, you're right. And so those two little nuggets of information have stuck with me. I've told that story a lot, and it really shaped me into trying to be more of a professional who delivers answers. And ultimately, taking all of that is kind of what has led me to saying I'm trusted guidance, and I help build brands better.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today, Greg. We truly do appreciate you coming on today.
Oh man, thank you. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Awesome. Awesome. And to everyone that is watching today, be kind and thanks.